Welcome back to Criminal Diaries. So far, in America, more than 50 women have been convicted, imprisoned, or sent to death row for taking the lives of their husbands. In this Part 3, we examine some of the most disturbing cases of women who committed heinous crimes against their spouses. Through official court records and documented evidence, we'll explore these final chapters that shocked communities and forever changed American criminal justice history. Molly Martins Corbett. Molly Martins Corbett's life unraveled after her husband, Jason Corbett, died under mysterious circumstances in their Arvada home on June 6, 2015. The couple had met in Ireland during graduate school, seemingly inseparable until Jason's accidental fall in 2014 left him with chronic pain and mounting frustration. On the evening of his death, Molly claimed she found Jason unresponsive on the bedroom floor. Paramedics arrived to find signs of blunt trauma injuries, bruises across his forehead, a fractured rib, and contusions on his back, alongside high levels of oxycodone in his system. Suspicion deepened when investigators discovered Jason's private journal detailing Molly's increasing anger and threats over his ongoing addiction issues. Surveillance footage from the home's security system captured Molly standing over Jason's body just moments before the call to 911. At her 2016 trial, prosecutors argued Molly beat Jason during an argument about finances and his refusal to quit drinking, then staged the scene as an overdose to mask her guilt. The defense countered that Jason's own opioid use had impaired his balance, causing a fatal fall, and that Molly's panicked actions reflected confusion, not malice. Medical experts disagreed on whether the injuries were consistent with an accidental fall or intentional assault. After deliberating for just 2 hours, the jury found her guilty of voluntary manslaughter. Sentenced to 16 years with credit for time served, Molly was released from the Colorado Women's Correctional Facility in late 2024 due to good behavior. In her final statement, she tearfully insisted she never intended to harm Jason, to miss the man I loved most, underscoring how pain, addiction, and miscommunication can culminate in irrevocable tragedy. Christina Martinez. Christina Martinez's descent into darkness began with her husband's worsening PTSD following multiple combat tours in Iraq. In November 2016, her husband, Army veteran Manuel Vasquez, returned to Jackson, Mississippi, emotionally distant and increasingly volatile. Neighbors reported shouting matches between the couple, punctuated by the sound of furniture crashing. Late one February morning, Christina called 911, claiming she had found Manuel laying lifeless on the living room floor. First responders discovered Manuel's body slumped face-first into a coffee table, a single fatal gunshot wound to the back of his head. Forensic analysis revealed that the muzzle imprint on Manuel's skull was inconsistent with a suicide. Investigators found Christina's fingerprints on the revolver, along with signs she had wiped away residual gunshot residue. Delving into their relationship, detectives learned Manuel had recently filed for divorce, citing Christina's erratic behavior and threats to ruin his life. At her early 2017 trial, prosecutors painted a portrait of a woman who believed Manuel's disability payments kept her afloat, so she schemed to kill him before he could cut her off. The defense replied that Christina's own history of bipolar disorder had left her impulsive and distraught. She believed Manuel intended to institutionalize her after a particularly harrowing psychotic episode. Expert testimony conflicted on whether her mental state was so compromised as to negate intent. The jury ultimately rejected her battered wife claims and convicted her of first-degree murder. Sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, Christina was remanded to the Central Mississippi Correctional Facility, where she awaits a pending appeal challenging the admissibility of psychiatric records. In her brief final remarks, she maintained that love and fear had mixed into a terrible mistake I could never undo, highlighting how untreated mental illness and trauma can corrode even the strongest bonds. Erica Sandoval. Erica Sandoval's public persona as the supportive wife of Houston police officer Daniel Green crumbled in May 2024 when she was arrested for his murder. Officer Green was found dead from a single gunshot wound to the chest in the family's spring home, his service weapon missing from its customary lockbox. Investigators quickly became suspicious when they discovered Erica had repeatedly texted a known local drug dealer in the days leading up to the killing. Surveillance footage captured her leaving the house in the early hours with a duffel bag. Hours later, she returned alone. Forensic analysis of Daniel's body revealed no defensive wounds. He likely never saw the attack coming. During her 2024 trial, prosecutors presented cell phone pings showing coordinated movement between Erica and Daniel's patrol vehicle on the night of the killing, suggesting she turned off his body camera feed. They argued she killed him to hide an affair and a simultaneous scheme to sell police-grade narcotics. The defense countered that heated marital disputes, exacerbated by Daniel's unpredictable shifts and post-traumatic stress from his time in Afghanistan, had driven Erica to a momentary act of panic after Daniel threatened to leave her. Psychiatrists testified Erica exhibited signs of acute stress reaction, but jurors were unconvinced. Convicted of capital murder in late 2024, Erica faces a possible death sentence but will automatically receive life without parole due to state guidelines. She now awaits sentencing at the Mountain View unit. In her brief pre-sentencing statement, Erica insisted, "I never meant to kill my husband, I just lost myself," underscoring how betrayal, stress, and desperation can collide in a deadly climax. Aurea Vázquez-Rijos. Aurea Vázquez-Rijos's case seized headlines in San Juan in 2005 when her husband, Adam Anhang Uster, a successful cardiologist, vanished without a trace. The couple had married in 2003, but by their second anniversary, rumors of Aurea's secret gambling addiction and mounting debts began to circulate among their affluent social circle. On the night of August 21, 2005, Aurea claimed Adam left their Condado condo to take a late-night flight to Miami. However, airport records revealed Adam never boarded, and his cell phone last pinged near their Lusby home. Investigators unearthed blood spatter on the bathroom sink and discarded clothes drenched in red inside their water heater closet. Aurea's inconsistent accounts, first saying Adam left in anger, then visited a friend in Caguas, raised further alarm. In 2007, her longtime friend and alleged accomplice, Hector Garcia, confessed that Aurea had paid him $20,000 to make Adam disappear, blaming him for her father's gambling demands and impending financial ruin. Hector led police to Adam's dismembered remains buried under a sugarcane field in Salinas. At her 2009 trial, prosecutors depicted Aurea as a calculating socialite who viewed Adam's life insurance as her ticket out of debt. The defense framed her as a woman under extreme duress, coerced into murder by familial pressures and fears of destitution. Despite this, the jury convicted her of first-degree murder. Sentenced to life without parole, Aurea began serving her sentence at the Bayamon Federal Correctional Institution after her 2015 extradition from Belgium. On the federal level, she was tried and again sentenced to life for international murder for hire. In her terse final plea before sentencing, she claimed, "I loved Adam too much to see him take everything from me," underscoring how desperation and deception can shatter even privileged lives. Lori Lee Shaver. Lori Lee Shaver's life in Roanoke spiraled out of control after a bitter divorce left her estranged from her husband, Michael Shaver, and their 2 young children. On a blistering summer night in July 2015, worried family members called police when Michael, a local architect, failed to return home. Investigators found Michael's body concealed under a smoldering woodpile behind his sister's home in Salem. His wrists bound, his skull fractured, and a blackened fire pit containing remnants of burned clothing. Over the next 8 years, the case grew cold until Virginia State Police extracted a DNA profile from hair recovered near the fire pit. That profile matched a sample collected from Lori during a routine traffic stop in 2018. Confronted with irrefutable evidence, Lori confessed in early 2018-2023 she had lured Michael to a secluded cabin under the guise of discussing custody logistics, then bludgeoned him with a tire iron when he refused her demands. She bound his body, carried it to the nearby woods, and attempted to destroy evidence by incinerating his clothes and personal items. At her 2024 trial, prosecutors argued Lori's motive was revenge for Michael's refusal to grant her a larger portion of their life savings and full custody. Defense attorneys presented testimony from a forensic psychologist diagnosing Lori with borderline personality disorder and severe depression, exacerbated by financial anxiety and 2 failed business ventures. Jurors found her guilty of first-degree murder and felony concealment of a body. Sentenced to life without parole, Lori now resides at Fluvanna Correctional Center for Women. In her final statement, she apologized to her children, claiming she lost everything that night, revealing how a broken heart and shattered finances can ignite lethal rage. Fathia Anna Davis. Fathia Anna Davis's life took a dark turn when her marriage to Anthony Davis, a successful real estate broker, collapsed over allegations of infidelity and financial mismanagement. By late 2013, Fathia had obtained primary custody of their 3 children after presenting evidence in court that Anthony squandered their joint assets on gambling and extramarital affairs. Determined to regain control of her finances and secure her children's future, Fathia sought out a known hitman in Houston, offering $25,000 to make her problems go away. On January 18, 2014, as Anthony arrived at his office for an early meeting, the hitman, allegedly introduced to him through a coworker, opened fire with a 9mm handgun, striking Anthony twice in the chest. Witnesses described the sound of gunshots echoing through the glass-walled lobby as Anthony fell, his lifeless body slumping over the reception desk. The gunman fled in a stolen SUV, but police tracked the license plate to Fathia's mother's home. In her ensuing confession, Fathia admitted orchestrating the murder from her lawyer's office, even using her work laptop to text the hitman real-time updates on Anthony's schedule. At her 2014 trial, prosecutors showcased text logs and bank withdrawals as proof of her premeditation. The defense argued Fathia acted under extreme emotional distress, believing Anthony intended to kidnap the children during a scheduled visitation. Jurors rejected this, convicting her of capital murder. Fathia received a 99-year sentence without parole, currently serving at the Lynagh unit. In her brief final comments, she expressed regret. "I never wanted my children to grow up without a father," underscoring how bitterness over betrayal and custody can warp moral boundaries. Ann Anastasi. Ann Anastasi's public image as a devoted mother and church volunteer in Rochester Hills shattered when she confessed to killing her husband, Anthony Anastasi Jr., and his mistress, Deborah Mallory, on April 12, 2016. Ann discovered Anthony's double life after finding explicit text messages and secret financial transfers to Deborah. That evening, she lured both to her suburban home under the pretense of reconciling differences. Once inside, Ann produced a .38 revolver and opened fire. Anthony collapsed in the kitchen, A single shot to the heart. Deborah, already holding Anthony's hand, fell to the floor. A bullet to the temple. Anne calmly dialed 911, admitting to killing them both because I could not live with their lies. Police recovered the murder weapon alongside Anthony's wedding ring and snapshots of the family dog near the front door. At her 2016 trial, prosecutors portrayed Anne as a calculating killer who plotted the double homicide to preserve her social standing and avoid financial ruin. The defense countered by presenting evidence of long-term emotional abuse, financial control, verbal humiliation, and public disparagement by Anthony, leading to Anne's diagnosis of severe depression. After a tense week, the jury found her guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder with a recommendation of life imprisonment. Sentenced to life without parole, Anne was transferred to the Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility. Her appeals, contesting jury instructions and the admissibility of her psychiatric evaluations, were all denied. In her final statement to the court, Anne expressed remorse, stating, "Their deceit killed me before I pulled the trigger," illustrating how betrayal and heartbreak can transform love into lethal retribution. Mary Winkler. Mary Winkler's case transfixed the nation in March 2006 when she confessed to fatally shooting her husband, Reverend Matthew Winkler, in their Selmer home after a sermon. At 32, Mary was a mother of 3 and a church musician. Early one April morning, neighbors heard gunshots before Mary emerged in her nightgown, carrying a shotgun and a bloody sheet, insisting she had acted in self-defense against an abusive husband. Investigators discovered Reverend Winkler's body on the parlor floor, a single shot to the back of the head. Mary claimed Matthew had struck her repeatedly over alleged infidelities and had held a gun to her head months earlier. Forensic evidence showed no defensive wounds on Reverend Winkler, while Mary's fingernails were broken and bruised. During her 2007 trial, prosecutors portrayed her as unfaithful and manipulative, attempting to murder a trusting spouse. The defense presented testimony from friends and family confirming Matthew's history of marital rape, emotional abuse, and obsessive control. After deliberating for 2 days, the jury convicted Mary of voluntary manslaughter, a compromise verdict reflecting Simmons County's divided sentiments. Sentenced to 150 days in jail and probation, Mary walked free. In her final statement, she said, "I loved Matthew, but I could not live another day in that home," underscoring how relentless abuse can force victims into a final, tragic confrontation. Clara Harris. Clara Harris's life as a dentist's wife in Pearland, Texas, unraveled on June 8, 2002, when she discovered her husband, Dr. David Harris, had taken a ride in his Corvette with his dental hygienist. Enraged by the betrayal, Clara armed herself with a .22 caliber revolver and raced to a restaurant parking lot where David and his mistress, Betty Carr, were embracing beside his gleaming Corvette. Witnesses report Clara approached David's car, opened fire through the windshield, striking him twice in the chest. As David slumped over the steering wheel, Betty fled, screaming into the restaurant. Clara then reversed the Corvette at high speed, ramming it into David's body and crushing him beneath the tires. The Corvette's shattered windshield and flattened hood bore witness to the violence. Police arrested Clara on the spot, her hands bloodied and her face streaked with tears. At her 2003 trial, prosecutors argued Clara's actions were premeditated. She had purchased the gun days earlier and meticulously tracked David's movements. The defense contended she acted under extreme emotional distress after David's confession of infidelity and financial deception. Jurors convicted her of murder, but recommended a lenient 20-year sentence, indicating sympathy for her plight. She served 8 years at the Mountain View unit before being paroled in 2011. Clara's final remarks during sentencing, "He destroyed everything I believed in," highlight how betrayal can spiral into a moment of uncontrollable rage. Vanessa Johnson. Vanessa Johnson's life in Birmingham took a horrific turn when she was convicted of killing her husband, Derek Johnson, a popular high school football coach, on October 14, 2016. Vanessa, a former schoolteacher, had endured years of alleged verbal abuse and controlling behavior from Derek, who was renowned for his community stature. Neighbors witnessed late-night shouting matches, and Derek's colleagues noted his increasing jealousy and temper. On the evening of his death, Derek confronted Vanessa in their kitchen over accusations she had taken $50,000 from his confidential Booster Club account. As he advanced, brandishing a baseball bat, Vanessa grabbed a kitchen knife and repeatedly stabbed him in the chest. Derek staggered into the living room, blood soaking his polo shirt, before collapsing on the oriental rug. Vanessa called 911, tearfully admitting she snapped when Derek threatened to ruin her reputation. At her 2017 trial, prosecutors argued she had time to retreat or call for help rather than resort to lethal force. The defense countered that Vanessa feared for her life. Jurors heard medical records showing Derek's history of stalking and threats. Psychiatric experts testified she suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome due to Derek's escalating violence. After a day of deliberations, the jury found her guilty of voluntary manslaughter. Sentenced to 12 years with credit for time served, Vanessa was released on parole in 2023. In her final remarks at sentencing, she said, "I didn't want to be a killer, but I had nowhere left to hide," revealing how prolonged terror and the loss of hope can culminate in tragic violence.